Hi people, let's continue our conversation on Impel Down. Last video we talked about the torturous prison conditions, and this one we will focus on level 5.5. So let's go back to right after Luffy's fight with Magellan. He is sent to the frozen wilderness of level 5, unconscious and covered in poison. Bonclay then disguises himself as Hannibal, the Vice Warden, and sneaks into level 5 to rescue Luffy. They take Luffy to the infamous Ivankov to save his life, and Bonclay ends up finding their own healing in New Kama, this hidden queer paradise that exists in between level 5 and level 6. This is an undeniably important part of Impel Down and is impossible to ignore. We explored how queerness is handled in anime. In my video essay, Anime is Political, but I want to have a broader conversation about it. It is really a radical thing, in my opinion, to do, especially from a Western standpoint, to have this character development where a non-binary character is exploring their gender identity. And this might very well contribute to why a lot of young people and queer people connect with One Piece. Today, I want to explore the implications of that paradise, how queerness and gender identity are explored in this 2008 arc, and how it relates to Japan's own relationship with queer people. But before we do any of that, as always, subscribe. I have TikTok, I have Instagram, I have Patreon, I have a Discord. The majority of those are free except for the Patreon. So there's really no excuse, you know? Just do it. Especially the Instagram. I post pics, I post art. You know, if you want to see updates, that's a great place to do it. Discord, connect with your fellow community members, you know? Be more part of the community. We need more people up there, okay? We really do. If you want to support me more, I do have Patreon. You can basically just see my process as I work on it before anyone else does. But yeah, let's get into the video. If you need a refresher on who Bonclay is, Bonchan was originally a Baroque Works agent. Like, let's go back to Alabasta Saga, where we first met Bonchan. Even though Baroque Works is the ideological enemy to the Straw Hats, if you will, Bonclay has always been kind, always been a friend. They vibed out on the boat with Luffy and Usopp and Chopper, sacrificed themselves to save the Straw Hats. They've just always been represented as a really good person. And that is the entire reason why we find Bonclay in Impel Down, because of that sacrifice. And they demonstrate even more of that courage and kindness when helping Luffy throughout Impel Down. They disguise themselves as Hannibal to get into level 5, get attacked by wolves in level 5 in order to bring Luffy to Ivankov to save his life, cheer Luffy on as Luffy is fighting for his life in that chamber, and could very well be the sole reason for why Luffy even recovered in the first place. You begin to love this character even more than you might have in Alabasta. Now, I already knew about Bonclay and had been primed to love them from the jump, because I got an impression from a certain man I watch for sometimes like 8 hours a day, you know. We don't need to name him though, but yeah, I was already primed to love this character from the jump. But the amount of character development, putting the spotlight on them, allowing them to shine, really enhanced how much I love them. I'm not sure if it's necessarily canonic. I think it is, right? But it's very clear that Bonclay is genderqueer to some extent. They are referred to as Mr., especially whenever they're in Baroque Works, but also refer to themselves as queer and really identify with the New Kama group. If you don't know, New Kama essentially means new humanity and is a spin-off of the Japanese slang Okama, which refers to, I believe, mainly drag queens, but I think can also extend to just queer people and trans people in general. There's this really good article from the Georgetown Voice that I found. It's just a random article, but I think it really shows exactly why Bonclay is such a compelling character. Bonclay is the first gender non-conforming character that readers encounter. His eccentric look, puffy pants, swan-adorned coat, and ballet shoes paired with hairy legs and clownish makeup originally had me questioning whether his portrayal was transphobic. However, it soon became clear that Bonclay exists as a powerful condemnation of gender essentialism. Gender essentialism is the idea that gender is discrete and biologically determined. In other words, one can only be the gender they are assigned at birth and must either be male or female, but not both. From Bonclay's first introduction, it is clear that his character deliberately blurs those lines. Bonclay is an officer in a crime syndicate, which embodies gender essentialism. Every level of the syndicate contains one male officer whose code name is a number and one female officer whose code name is a holiday. Bonclay, however, refuses a partner and adopts both code names, dubbing himself as both Mr. 2 and Bonclay, the latter being a reference to a Japanese festival. He is powerfully subverting the rigid gender roles of the organization he's a part of, forging his own path. Bonclay's rejection of gender essentialism highlights that he is actually a liberating depiction of trans people. He highlights that trans people do not have to be categorized, nor do they have to live within a binary determined at birth. They can transcend strict gender categories in any way they feel is comfortable. I think that is just an absolute perfect breakdown of the representation and really of all the new comma members. They thrive because they are free and don't have to box themselves into these rigid structures like Baroque works, or even how Boa Hancock is stuck in this structure of the 7 warlords in order to keep her island safe and the people on the island safe. You know, they are free from all of that. Any sense of order, any sense of structure, they are liberated from. There's also Ivankov, who is the queen of the new comma. He is also a genderqueer character and has a devil fruit that allows him to use hormones. He uses the power to move between genders, cure Luffy, of course, and also transify other people. Republicans would scream in horror at the sight of Ivankov. But once again, Oda shows great understanding of trans people by the guard that Ivankov injects with female hormones, realizing their true gender and realizing happiness, honestly. Or even Inazuma, who is Ivankov's right-hand man, fluidly moving through genders at any time. You'll see, you know, them at one point be in a more male form, and then another point they just randomly show up and they have boobs, you know? It's very fluid, it's presented in such a normal way that like the viewer just doesn't even bat an eye. It's not like ostracized, it's not otherized, it just feels natural, right? Ivankov is an exceptional character who also partakes in revolutionary action alongside Luffy's father. And whether intentional or not on Oda's part, I feel it connects to how a lot of queer people are at the forefront of change and progressive movements. You know, if you go to like a Palestine protest, there's a lot of queer people. In fact, the organizer from the PSL that helped my college put together the protest was a trans woman, you know, or even during BLM, there's a lot of movements that queer people help to organize and are at the forefront of. Despite my interpretation, there are people that have found Oda's drawings transphobic. I've seen people say that the new comma islanders, you know, whenever Sanji goes to the island, like that is the transphobic depiction. And I do think that they're comical and obviously not the most attractive, which I think definitely has some implications to it, which perhaps is Oda's blind sight to present the new comma islanders in, I forget what the island's called, because honestly I didn't watch whenever they were doing their little side arcs. I just wanted to see Luffy. I'm gonna be really honest, I kind of skipped past that part. But I do think that there's definitely like implications to that, which maybe is Oda's blind spot. Maybe Oda's a little ignorant when it comes to that. But I think his depiction of the people in the level 5.5 is much better of a depiction. It has way more variation. You know, they're just wearing like, you know, fishnet tights and really eccentric outfits. but it doesn't necessarily say like, oh, they're definitely ugly, like that's what I wanted. You know, it's not as in your face. It's more of a subjective depiction, if that makes sense. You know, it's not like you are definitely going to think that they're ugly, you know? If anything, for me, I thought that they were, I don't know, I thought it was really cute to see like the people with the bunny ears, and you know, just it was more endearing than it was problematic in any way to me. But others have said that the depictions are problematic and called Oda ignorant. I will say Oda never depicts them as bad people. They're always kind and accepting. They uplift each other and are free because of it. As you know, the article said, it is definitely not his intention to represent these people in a bad light, but to instead make you fall in love with these characters. But I am curious to see what you guys think. Do you think the depictions in Impel Down are bad? Do you think that the depictions whenever Sanji goes to Ivankov's island are problematic, you know, especially if you are trans yourself? What are your thoughts? I want to hear what you think. But let us break down the non-binary identity. I think that this conversation so far has definitely been geared towards people who understand gender fluidity and the genderqueer identity. But what if you don't, right? There are many people who are confused by being non-binary and what that means, or even confused with trans identity in general. And I think it's important to break down the validity of these identities. Now, I've never personally struggled with this, which makes it, I guess, for me, kind of hard to message around because I've just never thought about it that deeply. But I think if you want to understand trans identity, I think it's best to first understand what is gender. Now, gender is not sex. They're two different things. Sex is what you are biologically born as, male or female. This is my first time using this mic, so it might sound like pooey, but I also want to add that sex itself can be, I believe it's called bimodal. So that's where we get, you know, intersex people. It is not as concrete as you may think it is. It's not just like male, female, you know, even if you yourself identify as a female, your chromosomes may be, I don't know what female chromosomes are, but you know, for example, you could have like XXY chromosomes, you know, it's also in itself a spectrum, but I think that can break people's brains. So I don't know if I want to get into that too much, but I just want to add that as a note. And gender is what, to me, I think the best way to describe it is about your societal performance, how you socialize in the world, how you interact with other people. And these depictions of what we view as, you know, female or male have changed throughout history. You know, pink right now is viewed as a feminine color, but back in the day it was actually used for little boys. Only little boys would wear it. Little boys will also have, you know, long hair. And have you ever seen, was it Franklin Roosevelt? Whenever he's a child, like he looks like a little girl, right? So that in itself, to me, is gender fluidity, right? Is this binary that we assign ourselves to, moving and shifting throughout time. It itself is fluid, right? So that to me is why non-binary identity is valid, because we ourselves change these markers for gender all the time. It itself is fluid in nature. But of course, if especially for trans people, like if you meet a trans woman, you aren't going to look at the anatomy of someone to determine what pronouns you use, right? Like you're not going to do that. Like that is not how we interact with gender on a day-to-day basis, right? And even I've seen a lot of people say like they will never have a period, or they'll, you know, never experience what cis women experience. And it's like, and there are freaking cis women who have trouble doing those things, right? But that doesn't make them any less of a woman, right? So I think it's just about understanding that gender is more complex than that. It is not as binary as we give it credit for. It does not always work the way we expect it to, and I don't think it should. It's just about doing You know, with women's issues, we talk about abortion, we talk about autonomy, especially when it comes to ripping away those reproductive freedoms from women in America. And we hear this word autonomy, autonomy, autonomy. The same thing goes for trans healthcare, trans rights. It's about autonomy. It's about respecting people's choices. It's not that hard to do, you know? That's why I've just never, it's just never crossed my mind to be that mad at non-binary identity existing. Like, it's just like I don't know how to interact with that, you know, because it's just not that deep. Or just respect people's choices, their autonomy. But also, like I said, if you look at time, humanity, you know, third gender and Native American culture has existed for a long time. This stuff has existed so long that it's just silly, you know. Animals are trans as frick. Have you ever seen a seahorse? Have you ever seen a clownfish? They're trans. Like, get over yourself. But let's think about Japan's perspective on the trans community. I was very curious to research this. As I said in my Anime is Political video that I did, we discussed the history in Japan with queerness, and we talked about, in terms of trans identity, male actors who would play female roles in kabuki theater, but then even outside of the theater would interact and socialize as women. And nobody batted an eye. That was, from my understanding, it was socially acceptable. It's only recently that the country has taken this conservative stance on gay and trans rights. Now, I've heard varying experiences on social acceptability, and of course I don't live in Japan, so it's hard for me to know which one is in the majority. But some people, especially Japanese natives, have said that they get denied jobs from a lack of social acceptability. The Human Rights Watch did an entire report, I think it was back in 2019, about this trans man. They interviewed him and his experience, and he said he got denied a job from lack of social acceptability, and supposedly that is an attitude that is pretty prevalent in Japan. But there have also been a lot of foreigners I was reading about, you know, their experiences, and they said that people actually don't make comments and are pretty accepting, even if the person they are interacting with, the Japanese person, doesn't fully understand their gender identity. But I think legally being accepted is the true struggle. Systematically, it is really hard, from my understanding, to be trans in Japan. Up until last month, trans people had to go through a very strict process to be legally change their gender. It involved the diagnosis, obviously, and required people to be on HRT for a very long time, and also required people to get surgery. Now, something to understand is that not every trans person needs surgery to feel euphoric in their gender. But many in Japan felt that they were forced to get these surgeries, or they felt rushed to do it before they got into the workforce. And that leaves people with a lot of regret and anger because they couldn't do it at their own pace, or they couldn't do how they choose. Once again, autonomy. They couldn't do what felt right to them to do. They instead had to work within this very strict law. But thankfully, that law last month changed. The Japanese High Court ruled the previous law was unconstitutional and now doesn't require surgeries to change your gender legally. But that still leaves the door closed for people who don't want to or can't take hormones. So there's a lot to work on with the legal aspect still in Japan, but it's very great to see that they've been obviously organizing and fighting to get trans rights in Japan, and they've been successful at it. So I think they can definitely get justice for other people who, like I said, can't take hormones but still want to change their gender legally. At the end of the arc, Bonclay makes the ultimate sacrifice and once again disguises themselves, this time as I believe they were disguised as Magellan, to open the gate to Impel down from the control room. I can't even begin to describe how much this arc made me love Bonclay. The sadness I felt in my heart knowing that they would be locked up away for life just so Luffy could get away is just so over. It was such an overwhelming feeling. There is a theory. I don't know if it's canonic. I don't know if it's like in the manga or like in a side comic that Oda has written, because sometimes they do that where they make, you know, like the one where NL goes to the moon. You know, I don't know if it's canonic or not. But there is this theory that Bonchan is still, of course, an Impel Down, is carrying out Ivankov's level 5.5, which does make me feel a little better. You know, Bonclay isn't, you know, in their suffering. They are still free within a prison, which aren't we all, you know? Which aren't we all? Hopefully Oda will write about Bonchan getting free before the manga ends. Please, I beg of you. I think it's so crazy that the My Hero Academia manga ended before One Piece. And the My Hero manga artist, the creator, is a fan of Oda. I don't know, I was just thinking about how long this freaking manga has lasted. It's quite impressive. Bonclay is just such a selfless, beautiful character. And Luffy is just, once again, so lucky to have such amazing friends. You know, if there's anything to take away from One Piece, it's friendship, it's love. And Luffy never once questions their identity or the integrity of these people. He, as always, just views everyone as human and treats them with the dignity they deserve. That's why I love Luffy. That's why I love Bonclay and Ivankov. And that's why I love One Piece. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one, where we will talk about Marineford, and maybe I'll lump it together with post-war. I don't know. But I'll see you then. Okay, bye.